to get started. Brooklyn, Park Slope, New York. I am excited to be here. I am going to do a pretty brief introduction myself about myself because there's a lot that I do want to get to. There's a lot that I want to give to you. There's a lot of support that I want to be able to offer, and also I want to make space for Q&A. And there's also enough about me on the internet that if you're really curious, you'll find out a lot. But I'll say that I started off as a Montessori teacher, and then I became an educational specialist where my role was to go to really, I was working with 10 different schools. I did trainings. I supported the kids who would hit, kick, elope, spit, all those behaviors that tend to challenge us as adults. Those were the kids I worked very closely with. And I had to start to share the things that I had learned along my journey online. And it blew up on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and started getting messages every day of just how the things that I've shared has transformed, personal lives and families and relationships. And so obviously I kept on sharing. I've traveled around the country at this point, coaching in different schools, talking at different conferences. And I started, came to New York to start a school because as much as I loved supporting other people in their programs across the country, and I loved doing the conferences and talking about all the things that I've done in the past and showing those videos, I really wanted to keep practicing my own skills and keep doing the work and not just talking about it. So I came to Brooklyn, New York to start Birdhouse, to really make a lot of very needed changes that I've seen across early childhood, across the hundreds of schools that I've worked with and the thousands of children that I've worked with. Realistically, early childhood is there's a lot of challenges that we have, and I'm hoping to solve a lot of them with Birdhouse. So that's the intro. The philosophy that we're really going to talk about today is something called conscious discipline. But now the topic that we're going to talk about to help us better understand, we're going to use conscious discipline to help us better understand confidence and independence. It's helpful for a lot of other topics too that we'll probably touch on somehow, some way, but we're going to focus on independence and building confidence in children. Um, and before I start all of the conscious discipline stuff, I want to just, and if you guys can put it in the chat or just put it anywhere where you can type in, if you've ever gone skydiving before, and honestly, if you can put it in the chat, this would be helpful. And I'm going to wait a little bit to come back to it. But if you've ever gone skydiving before, um, can you put in the chat, or have you ever gone skydiving or something like cliff jumping or something that was, the average person would consider to be scary to do, and you did it? Put in the chat what gave you the confidence to do that. What gave you the confidence to jump out of a plane, to jump off that high thing, to start your new business, to whatever it is, whatever scary thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be actually jumping off of something, but what scary thing, what really big scary thing have you done in your life that, and maybe it's something you're really proud of. What gave you the confidence to do it? Now, if you can put that in the chat, um, that would be helpful. And I will see if I can come back to that. And if you can't put it in the chat, oh, I'm seeing a lot of, so I see some clips. So we're going to come back to that. I'm giving you some time to input your answers, and then we'll come back to it as I talk about a different scary thing to do. Tightrope walking, right? So if you've ever seen a tightrope walker, you were probably amazed and had the thoughts of like, how did they learn? How do you even learn how to do that, right? Sometimes you see the viral videos of people doing things. You're like, how do you even learn how to do that? How do you even learn how to do that backflip? And, any tightrope walker will tell you that they used a safety net while they were practicing their tightrope walking. And for them to practice the skill of tightrope walking, they had to have a safety net underneath them because they need to feel safe enough to try this new skill, to practice this thing that was scary, right? And to know that they can practice this thing and still know that they're safe, that they'll be okay, that they'll be loved, and that the that even though there is some risk there, that after that risk, they will still be okay. And you might even see a tightrope walker and you're looking at them and you don't even notice. You see them doing the amazing thing, but you don't even notice the safety net underneath them. Now, the safety net is not right where the rope is, right? The safety net is not holding the tightrope walker up, right? Because then they wouldn't be able to actually practice the skill of doing that scary thing. No, the safety net is in the background, right? It is almost like it's not even there, but the tightrope walker knows that it's the safety net is there. Um, and if the tightrope walker falls, the safety net is there to help them land safely. And so as we go into consciousness and we talk about all of this, think of yourself as you're the safety net, right? If you're trying to build confidence from within in your child, confidence and independence, think about you being the safety net. And no, the safety net is not right on top of them, holding them up, propping them up, so they don't have to use their skills. They're in the back. The child has the tightrope has to practice the balance. If they fall, there's a consequence there. They fall, and it's might be scary for a little bit, and they're falling through the air, but at the end of the day, they're safe, right? And so let's go into what you guys said of like what helped you do that thing that was scary. All right, so I see us like cliff jumping. Honestly, not sure I was confident as much as peer pressure that it would be fun and worth it. So you knew that it would be fun. It sounds like you seemed that it would be safe. You probably saw, my guess is you probably weren't the first one to do it, right? You probably saw other people do it first. And that's a big thing. That's something that we are going to talk about as we talk about the skill of assertiveness, of modeling, teaching them the skill of what to do. It's not just I go out and do it. You should just know how to do it and you'll be successful at it. There is a level of teaching that we can do when they feel safe so that they can practice the skill and they can get good at it. Because no one's ever good at anything when they try the first time. We're all gonna make mistakes and mess up. That's an essential part of the learning process. So we want to teach them how to make mistakes. So let's see. What did other people say? I think I saw preparation, right? Exercises and practice, right? The practice of it. And we often aren't even willing to practice that scary thing if we don't feel safe enough to do it. Seeing someone else do it, someone said, to prove that it could be done and knowing I had a backup plan and support system around me in case I failed, right? So that safety net in college long enough, not confident to want to do it, and was naive enough not to feel the fear. So you didn't even feel the fear. And sometimes kids, right, they will just go and jump and just do the thing, and they're not even aware of the thing. And that's where we as the adult have to also kind of be a bit aware of theirs, especially young children, right, who haven't had enough life experience to recognize and enough natural consequences to recognize what is risk and what is a hazard. And there's a difference there, right? And us as the adult, when we're teaching children, we have to be aware. We have to be aware of what the difference of a risk and a hazard. Because sometimes we see a risk and we go down the rabbit hole of, oh, if they jump off that thing, they're going to break their leg and they might break their neck and then they'll be paralyzed for the rest of their life. And then because they're paralyzed, they won't have any friends and they'll be depressed. And we go down this rabbit hole of all the things of what could happen without really assessing one, where the child is at developmentally, two, like, yeah, what is realistically going to happen if they do try to jump off the thing, right? And if you really feel like it's a not safe thing to do and you're kind of back and forth, then just kind of be that safety net. There is uh, 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 we have a little pickler triangle at Birdhouse. And sometimes when I'm first getting to know a child and they're going up the pickler triangle, because I don't know where they're at developmentally, I would just kind of sit back and just kind of put my hand behind them. They don't see my hand. They don't know that if they fall, I'm going to catch them. I've had to catch one or two before. But it's that safety net that's there that like I know that if they fall, they're going to be okay. But now they can still take the risk. And once they do that risky thing, and they achieve that, that builds their confidence and they're willing to try more risk and try more other scary things. Right. So I think I made my point in terms of the safety. Now let's get in, let's better understand the brain behavior and actually what skills and actually what to do to help build their confidence from within, because there's very concrete things that you can do, and there are things that we typically do that are often counterproductive to what our goal of building confidence and independence in children. So to understand children and understand toddlers, you got to understand the brain. Now, we'll say this is a metaphor of what's happening in the body brain. This is to help you understand their behavior and understand how to respond to their behavior in a way that's helpful. So you have your three brain states. Now, I'm going to tell you to repeat some things. If you really want to absorb as much as possible, play along with me at home. And if you choose not to, the natural consequence of that is that you're just not going to retain as much. So play along, get your body into it, have fun. Okay. So everyone say three brain states. Three brain states. That's you. So you have your three brain states. Now, what's important to know is that the brain develops bottom up and it processes information bottom up. And you see, I have my brain states behind me because it's a great reminder for me as well. What's important to know, not just that the brain develops and processes information bottom up, is that is the know that the survival state is the first part of the brain to develop. And you see a lot of this in our young, you see a lot of survival state behaviors in our babies and our toddlers, especially because that's the first part of the brain that develops. They're always there, and the survival state is always asking, am I safe? Right. And if that question isn't answered in the affirmative, we don't even have to worry about the rest of the brain because all the resources are going to be drawn to safety. So the way that you can tell that a child is in a survival state is that they're using the survival state skills. So do this along with me. Say fight, say flight,
Flight,
on,
fawn,
and say freeze.
freeze.
There you go. You did it. Those are the survival state skills. The way that you can tell that a child is in a survival state is they're using those survival state skills. And so think about them as more body physical reactions, right? And when a child is in a survival state, right? And maybe you're doing something, maybe it's something like you're going to the pool or you're where it's scary for them, you're doing something that's scary for them. You might see their body react. And they're like, you seem kind of like out of control. That is a sign that they're in a survival state. Another sign is that they're often not making eye contact. They're often not using any words. They might just be screaming. Ah, ah, ah. That is a sign of a survival state, right? They're not even really communicating to you with words, but they're communicating a lot with their body. They're telling you, I'm in a survival state. And what their brain body is asking for, begging for, pleading for is a felt, do this with me. When they're in a survival state, what their body's asking for and pleading for is a felt, do a little wiggle like this, sense of safety. Okay, just say, I felt sense of safety. And when they feel a sense of safety, then they can move up to the emotional state. Now, I want to be very clear and not harbor too much on it because I want to move on to other things, but safety is not just about the words that you say. It's not just saying you're safe. Because I could say, you're safe, you're fine, you're safe, you're safe. There's no problem here. Just jump in. Your mom comes every day. This is not a big deal. You're safe. And that's not going to feel safe for you, right? Now I could say it differently. And I could say, you're safe. Yeah. Your mom comes back for you every day. Yeah. You're safe. You jump in, you'll still be safe. Right. And so I can say the same thing, but give a completely different feel right? One is going to trigger them, keep them down in their survival state because our body language, our tone, and our energy communicate more than our words ever will. So whenever you are trying to help your child do something, trying to motivate your child to do something that might be scary for them, think about yourself and your own body. Do you feel safe right now? Right? So do this with me. Everyone say, my state dictates their state. So if I'm in a survival state and I'm worried, I'm scared, they're going to feel that energy. It's going to come out, whether we want it to or not. They're going to feel it and they're going to stay down in the survival state. So it's really important to think about how to regulate yourself. And Conscious Discipline has a whole book on it. And we're not going to go super deep. That's not the topic today of how to bring yourself up to an executive state and regulate yourself. Maybe that's a topic for another day. But it's at least important for you to think about it and to try to genuinely be calm enough so you can give that felt sense of safety so they feel safe enough to do that thing. Okay, so now they have a felt sense of safety. They'll move up to their emotional state. Now, their emotional state is where the more verbal reactions come from, right? It's when a child's in emotional state, they'll say, "Yeah, I'm invited to my birthday party," right? And maybe not a toddler because they're not using that many words, but a toddler might say, "No," or no, right? They're using, or they might even use communicate with their body a little bit more of like pointing. They're communicating, they're trying to communicate, they're using the skills that they have to communicate. That's a sign that they're in an emotional state. And when we're in an emotional state, we tend to see the world as me versus you. So what happens is often is the child will be, we will, before I go to this, it's important for you to know what triggers us into a survival state and what triggers us into in an emotional state. What triggers us into a survival state is a threat or a perceived threat. The threat doesn't even have to be real. So have you ever been like in your kitchen and like just kind of doing your own thing and then someone comes up and they're like, hey, hello. And then you're, oh, and you kind of like jump, oh, it's just you, right? That's an example of a survival state. The threat, even though the threat wasn't real, your body brain perceived a threat and your body reacted to it, right? The trigger for the emotional state is something simply in the world not going our way. So have you ever played that game where you left for work you left to go to work just in time for you to get there on time, as long as everyone on the road acts right, as long as all the trains are on time, as long as there's no slow walkers on the road, they're all on the sidewalk? Y'all ever done that? Leave just in time to get there in time as long as everybody acts right? Yeah. And once you know, those are the days that nobody knows how to act, right? Those are the days that nobody knows how to walk on the right side of the road or drive, or the trains are always late, right? Now, what do you think is more likely? That we're seeing the world through the filter of our emotional state, or that the world is conspiring against us and the trains and the walkers are all know that we're late and there's walking slow and stopping the trains and giving us the red lights just so that we can be late, right? Sometimes it feels like that. Sometimes it feels like the world is conspiring against us, but really we're just seeing the world through the filter of our emotional state. And we notice more of the slow walkers, the train being on time, and we're more triggered by it because something in the world is not going our way. The same thing is true for children. They were maybe hoping to have more time with you, and so they might get triggered into an emotional state. Maybe they were hoping to sit on the side and not go in, jump on the pool. Maybe we were hoping to splash, 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 splash. And we moved over, and so they might be in an emotional state and say, "No, I want to go back to the splash pad," or whatever it is, right? And it's important for us to know these things so we know how to help them. And then now we learn that in a survival state, the child needs a felt sense of safety. And now we're learning that in an emotional state, when something in the world doesn't go their way, and we see the world as me versus you, this is when we tend to get in those power struggles. Um, One, to help us, we want to shift our perspective to it's not me versus you, it's me and you versus the problem. It's not me versus you, it's me and you versus overcoming the fear of getting into the pool. It's not me versus you, it's me and you versus this, overcoming the fear of climbing up to the slide and going down, right? It's me and you versus the problem. And when a child is in an emotional state, the thing that they're really asking for and begging for and pleading for is connection, understanding, and a sense of belongingness, right? And the four parts of connection are, do this with me, eye contact, touch, a playful situation, and presence. So think about this, right? When you're a child, you're doing something, they get really scared about something. Your first job is to give them a felt sense of safety to where they're communicating to you, where they're using words, where they're doing more eye contact. Your second job is helping them feel understood, you connecting with them, eye contact, touch, a felt sense of safety. And then after that, then you have a chance of logically really reaching that logical brain. And in consciousness, when we call this the executive state. This is where the executive state skills are, like impulse control, flexibility, which is really important. Their flexibility of just like, oh, this is not what I'm expecting, but can I be flexible enough to try it anyways, right? Um, Impulse control, flexibility, emotional regulation, right? That's really the huge piece that we're talking about, right? Can they be regulated enough to try that scary thing, right? Um, Attention, time management, organization, prioritization, task initiation, goal achievement, goal persistence, metacognition, empathy. These are all executive state skills. Now, what happens is we expect children to use their executive state skills when they're in their emotional state and survival state, and it does not work like that. It does not work like that. What we end up doing is we end up creating more disconnection. They're not able to access the little bit of skill that they are developing of their executive state. And they tend to be more fearful or more anxious of that thing that we wanted them to do, or that they were maybe thinking about doing. So um, so remember that felt sense of safety, connection, understanding, and sense of belongingness, and then we can really reach that logical brain. And the last bit I'm going to say about this is that the executive state, those prefrontal lobes, are not fully developed to at least 25, 26. So your toddlers, like we'll say that those prefrontal lobes aren't even really online yet. In the very beginning stages of developing. So don't expect your toddler to have too much emotional regulation. The way that they learn emotional regulation, especially at this age, is through us being able to regulate ourselves enough to help them regulate and be that safety net so that they can try things when they're ready.
Are you giving daddy?
Um, Now, there's a couple things that I have planned that I was going to talk about, but I really want to jump a little bit to the skills, and maybe the videos might be relevant in our conversations. And the Q&A and the questions that are being asked, that will be asked, but I want to this is really super connected to the brain, and I want to at least go through this in connection to independence and where these skills fit into independence and confidence. And then I want to open it up for the Q&A. Even though I didn't say everything that I hoped to be able to say in this time, my expectation is that the questions will bring out some more of the information that you're needing. So yeah, we're just going to go on for there. So looking at this, you see the 7 skills, they're color coded. They're color coded for a reason because they match with the different brain states, right? You see the red, you see the blue, you see the green. Now, now, a lot of times we use really great skills, but we use them at times that aren't very helpful. Like sometimes we'll try to really practice empathy with a child who's in a survival state, and they're not really able to, it's not helpful for them. Empathy is a really powerful, helpful skill to use, but it's helpful also to know when it is most helpful, right? And so it's color coded. Now, the skills for the lower centers of the brain are helpful for the higher centers of the brain, but the skills for the higher centers of the brain are unlikely to be helpful for the lower centers of the brain. So what do I mean by that? Composure and assertiveness are likely to be helpful the um, regardless of what state your child is in. Survival state, emotional state, executive state, your own regulation, composure And assertiveness, clear communication, boundaries, those are things that are helpful regardless of what state the child is in. Encouragement, choices, and empathy are likely to be helpful when a child is in an emotional state or an executive state, but unlikely to be helpful when a child is in in a survival state. Positive intent and consequences are likely to be helpful when a child is in an executive state, but unlikely to be helpful when a child is in an emotional state or survival state. So let's break this down into the context of independence and confidence. So and each of these skills really do contribute to it, independence and confidence. So composure, I already kind of touched on that. Our own regulation, they're going to feel our own regulation. Even I was talking to a teacher, like I'm afraid of bees. It's my irrational fear, even the ones like the bumblebees, I'm afraid of them. And so when a bumblebees come around on the playground, I have to be mindful of I'm not overreacting, that I'm regulating myself instead of overreacting. Because what will happen is that my fear will be transferred to the child. Just by them seeing me react to the bee, they're going to react more to the bee. Now, if I put my hand out and the bee comes and they're just laying on my hand and it's gentle, then they'll be much more likely to do the same and not have the same fear if the bee lands on them, right? So our composure, our state dictates their state. Um, and we can really lend our prefrontal lobes when we are composed. Assertiveness. Now, this is really big. And I was going to kind of touch on this on the slide. When we are teaching them what to do and being clear about our communication, telling them exactly what to do and painting the picture and using verbs. So even something as simple of like, you're telling them to put something in the trash can. You can say, put it in the trash can like this. So number one, telling them exactly what to do, put or throw, right? Starting with the verb is going to help their brains receive what to do much better than when we start with something else. Using a gesture, right? Like this, or you can say you can scoot in the pool like this, or you can climb up like this and pull yourself up. You put your hand right here and pull yourself up. So that's the teaching portion, and that's the showing and the very clear communication. Even think about it like a basketball coach or a baseball coach. A talented one at least will say exactly what the person did, um, or what to do, tell the person exactly what to do, right? Put your hand, if we're teaching them how to shoot a basketball, put your, elbow perpendicular to your shoulder, lift it up like this, and flick your wrist like this, right? I don't know if that's actually how you shoot a basketball, but whatever it is, you want to be very specific. You want to show them, and that will help them especially if it's a new skill or something they don't know how to do or struggling. If you're a toddler, assume toddlers are they're learning all the skills, right? So there's a lot of showing that we have to do with toddlers, right? And then as we show them, we can kind of back off more and more, and then they're able to do more and more. And then we're not so upset, like, why'd you throw it on the floor? Why'd you, right? Because in just getting mad at them for not being able to do it, we are able to really have the skills and know that we can show them what to do. Encouragement. So when they do something, and this is also part of like this independent play too, of how you can kind of sit back, just notice what they did, right? And, oh, you put it in the trash so that our room would be clean. That was helpful. Or even if let's say you want to like support the play, but you don't want to actually be in it, but they're wanting your connection somehow through encouragement, you can just notice what they're doing. Whatever you see, oh, look, yep, you put your one, or even so with the independent player, even they're trying something new and different, like, oh, yep, I saw you put your hand up and you grab the rock, and then you put your foot up and you started to slip, but then you put your hand on the other one, you regained your balance. Not only will that help them like process, like, okay, like next time when they mess up or they're slipping, they now have that language in their head. Oh, I slipped, but I can put my hand back on the rock, right? That's one example. Choices. Um, Two positive choices. I'm going to kind of we'll What I would just say about two positive choices is instead of saying you can either jump in the pool or not go in the pool, or we're going to go home, you could say something like you can put your toe in, or you can put your right toe in or your left toe in. Which is best for you? I'm going to put my left toe in, right? And so that's some of the modeling that I was talking about too. So choices and modeling. What's really important with these skills is they're not in isolation. You use them all together in tandem, and it makes them all exponentially stronger and more effective. And not only are you able to guide your child effectively, you're also able to guide them in a way that's healthy, that builds the healthy inner voice, which brings me to empathy. And with empathy, just the way that we respond to them. Let's say they mess up with something and we had expectations that they would be successful, or maybe we think that they are not trying enough, or we think that whatever, we had some expectation, it wasn't met. Often we get frustrated, we get mad, and then we react to them like, oh, like why you're not even just trying, you're not even trying, just try, right? And we get mad. And so the way that we respond to them and their upset and their mistakes becomes their inner voice and how they respond to themselves. So if we're reacting to them this way, then what happens is when they're trying something new, what becomes their inner voice, not just as they're young, as they get older, is like, oh, whatever you say to them. So, and that's part of the other side. You talk becomes I talk. Oh, you're so lazy. You're like, what's wrong with you? Becomes, "Ah, I'm so lazy. What's wrong with me?" When they make a mistake. And do you think that's something that builds their confidence and encourages them to try more new and scary and difficult things, or something that's going to cause them to go in the lower centers of their brain where they're going to just go in their shell and not try and stay complacent because what they're looking for is just safety, and they don't even feel safety within themselves, so they're just staying back there, right? Positive intent. It's all about turning conflict into cooperation. Not super relevant to this. This is more about interpersonal conflict and consequences. Somewhat natural consequences are relevant in this. All this kind of relevant to the whole safety net conversation. The part of the natural consequence, like, yeah, they're going to fall, they're going to get scrapes, they're going to hurt themselves. That's part of the natural consequence of learning. And let's say, they do fall. We're not going to go to them and say, told you so, you should have done that. We're going to come to them because if they fall, they hurt themselves. It's likely they're in an emotional state because that's not the way they wanted it to go. We know now with this information, as you watch this back and you process it more, now we know when something doesn't go their way, they're likely going to be like, ah, I hurt myself. What they're needing, what they're wanting is understanding, connection. And when we can respond to them in a way where it's like, oh, I, I, I see you fell. Yeah, you're running and you fell down, you hurt your knee. Yeah, that must hurt, right? And we might connect, right? Remember the four parts of connection: eye contact, touch, a playful situation, and presence. And that understanding, what you'll notice as you do this approach with your child and you give them that understanding when things don't go their way, then they'll naturally get into that executive state and they get more playful, more ready to take risk. And that is will help them give them more time to build their confidence. And I'm going to end it with this: that esteem, that we're talking about self-esteem here. This isn't something that comes externally. Like, we don't give them the confidence, right? The confidence comes within from the experience. And now we support them and create an environment where they're more likely to build their confidence and build their independence. And the way that we build that from within is the way that we respond to them. Not necessarily like, oh, if you, right, these external sometimes bribes we give of like, oh, I'll give you extra screen time if you do X, Y, and Z, right? If you do this brave thing, or I'll give you a lollipop if you do this brave thing. It's not going to help them. It's unlikely to help them short term, and it's definitely not going to help them long term. So I said a lot, but I really want to make sure, and honestly, I could be here for like 5 more hours on this topic, but I want to just make sure that I am answering your questions that you have and put this all in context. Maybe we can talk about some examples. So I'm going to open it up for Q&A.
And I'm coming back. Hold, please. One of the questions I have for you, and again, if you have questions, and there is a question about birdhouse, but we'll answer that in a minute. But this idea of I'm adding me. There I am, I'm back.
Mhm,
Um, my state dictates their state. I
mhm,
love that. That's the first thing I wrote down. My state dictates their state. And this isn't a parenting webinar on making sure that you can regulate. A friend of mine used to give herself timeouts. She used
mhm,
to give herself time. She was like, I'm dysregulated. I don't want to interact with you. She didn't say it like this, but she's like, Mommy needs a minute.
mhm,
So what are the couple of top tips you have if a parent is dysregulated and the kid, you're trying to make the kids feel safe, but you're just freaking angry?
mhm. So, this is why the question is so important. First thing is that the expectation is number one, it's unrealistic to stay regulated in your executive state all the time. That's not the goal. Don't try to do it. Avoid doing that. The goal is not to stay in your executive state all the time or stay regulated all the time. The goal is to become aware enough to recognize when you're in that state and then use the skills that you have in your tool belt to help move yourself up to the executive state, or at least move yourself out of the way where you don't harm somebody else, because that's what we tend to do. Um, with all the best intentions. So to answer your question more specifically, some tips to help us regulate when we're really frustrated. So the five, and I will give you a little five-step process. And this is something that takes practice. And, if you have to leave the room to regulate, that is better than staying and doing something that you wish you could have taken back later. So, kudos to that parent for being aware enough to say, hey, I need some time. Um, and the five steps of self-regulation will help you be able to practice staying in that moment and regulate it and still being able to move forward. That's ultimately the goal because, you're not always going to be able to leave the room, right? So, five steps. So, the first step is I am becoming aware that you're triggered, right? That's the first step. And usually when I do this, I tell people say, I am. Because when you recognize you're triggered, it's like hits you like a ton of bricks. It's like, oh, snap. Like I've been mid finger wag, and I'm like, oh, I am triggered right now. This is why I'm giving this lecture, right? So I am recognizing your trigger. The second step is doing something to calm your body. And the number one thing that I recommend and Conscious Discipline recommends is breathing because it works for everybody, right? Now, it takes breathing is something that takes practice and something that you have to learn how to do. And sometimes when we breathe, we go like, ah, and that ain't gonna do nothing for you. If anything, that's gonna keep you in the lower centers of your brain. To actually breathe to get the benefits of breathing, you breathe in through your nose with your belly expanding and then out through your mouth. And you want your out breath, your exhale to be longer than your in breath. Um, and then the third step is to recognize what you're feeling. There's a term that says name it to tame it. And the idea is coined by Tina Payne Bryson and Dan Siegel. And the idea is that um, the better you're able to name your emotions, the better you're able to tame your emotions. So and there's kind of two parts to this. It is recognizing like, okay, I'm feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, angry, and then also where you feel that in your body. Do you feel it in your gut? Do you feel that in your hands? Your jaw clench up? Just becoming aware and present of what you're feeling. That's also going to help you in the future recognizing that you're triggered because you're like, oh, my hands are doing that thing. You may not have been recognizing like what was happening internally, but you saw your hands like, oh wow, I'm triggered, right? And sometimes it's like, oh, like you'd be walking around, I was like, wait, why is my jaw clenched? Like, okay, relax. So recognize you're triggered, calm your body with breathing, recognizing what you're feeling. And then the fourth step, I say, is the most difficult step. And this is what is probably going to cause you to be like, hey, I need some time to go somewhere else. And I also say the third step is preparing you for that fourth step. And it's choosing to see it differently, right? It's the child's not trying to give me a hard time, they're having a hard time. It's not me versus you, it's me and you versus the problem. It's the behaviors communication. It's the Q-tip, which is stands for quit taking it personally, because they might be reacting verbally to you, or they might be hitting or running using their emotional state scales or survival state scales. And sometimes we take those things personally, right? We start to think our inner voice starts to come up from our own childhood, where we're like, I'm such a bad mom. I'm such a bad parent. Like, what's wrong with me? I should know better. This should be right. Our inner voice starts to come up, right? And so it's and that's kind of the full circle moment of like where you recognize like, you didn't put that voice inside your head, right? And that's why I talked about the empathy and the how important it is to respond, but choosing to see it differently. And if you can choose to see it differently, then you're in your executive state. Those first three steps are helping you move up. Right now, you choose to see it differently. You can really see your child's behaviors, communication. You can really see when maybe they're spitting, just see they're in a survival state and they're needing safety. You can really see when maybe they cuss or they say no or they do whatever, that they're really asking for understanding, connection, and a sense of belongingness, right? So if you can see that, you're already in your executive state, and that's when you try to come up with a win-win solution that works for you as the adult and the child.
Okay.
That's the 5 steps.
Okay. We're going to get those and send those out later because I need those, and I have 23 and 21-year-olds. So there you go.
For
Because
all of us throughout life.
right? Because what I found is having children is the best way to bring up every single trigger you were ever that was installed.
100%. And they push every single trigger.
Yes. And go ahead.
And so, and you know what though? They're pushing an important distinction there is they're pushing your buttons. Those are your triggers, right? And the thing that triggers you might not trigger somebody else,
Right.
right? And whoever you put in charge of you, whoever you put in charge of your emotions, you put in charge of you. And so that's why in conscious discipline we talk so much about it's an adult first program. It's so important for us to regulate ourselves. Now, as you're learning all this and you're like, oh man, like I hurt my child, I hurt my child. Like I just found out the other day that slushies are apparently harming children. And I'm like, wow, that's not something that I did not know. I've been giving every summer, we've been doing snow cones all summer, right? And so there's a moment of realization. But then instead of beating yourself up about it, we say oops, which stands for our opportunity to practice skills or our opportunity to problem solve. There's no reason to beat ourselves over it. It happened, accept that it happened, and take it as a learning opportunity and just use that opportunity to learn and grow and move on. And that's probably one of the most important things I'm going to say in this whole webinar. Avoid being a perfectionist, be an improvementist. The goal isn't to be perfect every day. The goal is to improve just a little bit every day.
A provenist. I like that. Improvenist.
Improvementist.
Instead of a perfectionist. There's a great saying that why is your family so good at pushing your buttons? Because they installed them. You installed them. And so, I think everybody should be in therapy. It's a oil change for your brain, but understanding what your triggers are that were installed from your family. Was it money? Was it I'm not good enough? Was it all of those things you're going to infuse on your children if you don't understand how you got it, And so I think that ends up being a really important way to look at things. I had my older daughter, she was probably 6, my younger daughter was 4, and she said, "Why do you always side with Sabrina?" And I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, you always see her side and you always tell me that I should do something differently. What about her?" And I wrote to Park Slope parents, "Someone please give me the big sister perspective." And people were like, I was always expected to have my little sister around. I was a little sister, I was a little sister. So even keeping your birth order in check and
Hmm.
understanding that I understand what it's like to be a little sister. So it's a lot easier for me to empathize with my younger daughter than it was for my older daughter because I didn't understand. Why wouldn't you want to take your little sister with you? So
Hmm.
we have a question in the chat or in the Q&A. Please put any other questions. I feel like my toddler, 2 months and I think it's 2 years and 3 months, is in a constant emotional state. Sometimes he whines nonstop about everything. He doesn't ask for water, he whines for water. It's really hard to stay calm as a parent. How do you get him out of that emotional state when it's a very trivial thing?
Mm. First thing to recognize is that you are triggered and are likely, probably the sound of the whine is triggering you into an emotional state. And now, and so these are the skills that I've showed you. Now, what I haven't shown you is there are powers that go with each of these skills that help you access these skills. And the power for composure is perception. And so, uh, uh, to help you, I'm going to give you a very concrete thing to do in this moment to help your child whine less, but I'm also going to help your perspective around it so that you're more regulated going into it, hopefully. So your toddler is, when I think about whining, like they're toddlers. There wasn't very long ago where they were babies. And when they were babies, they cried for what they wanted. And like we knew, like, okay, they're crying for what they want. And we know we're going to give you this thing. Okay, what do you want? You're crying. Okay, you want this? Here you go. You want this. It's how they communicated. We know that and we understand that. And yeah, we might get frustrated sometimes. We can't figure out how, but we get that they're just communicating with us. Now, then they start to talk. And now that they have words, all of a sudden our perception as adults, we start to change. It's not the child that's really changing. They're doing some changes. The change they're doing is they're starting to use more words, right? And they're actually whining less than when they were a baby because a lot of the things most of their communication were whines, right? And so they're still learning to communicate with, when they're with an assertive voice, right? And that's one of our skills of conscious discipline. The way that you can help them with their assertiveness is, and I'm going to give you a phrase. You say, match your voice to mine and help them actually say it in the way that you're expecting them to say it, or you're hoping for them to say it. Now, understand, you probably got in your emotional state because you're hoping they would originally ask that they would ask in an assertive tone and they'd say, Mom, may I please have more bananas or may I have a toy or toy, please, or whatever it is, right? And that's not how they ask. They say, "Ah, ah," right? And that probably sent you in an emotional state. It's important to be aware of that because you're not going to be able to do the match your voice to mine if you're not regulated, right? So pause, take a deep breath, see that they're really just trying to communicate to you in the best way they can in this moment because something didn't go their way. And I think there's one other piece that I think we're missing that's really helpful, that this executive state, that's not developed yet in your toddler. This is what helps to regulate the emotional state and the survival state. The reason why you feel like your toddler's in emotional state all the time because they don't really have much of an executive state yet. They don't. So they are using a lot more emotional state and survival state behaviors. So understand that's how they're communicating. Teach them how to communicate using the phrase match your voice to mine and coach them how to ask in a better way.
Mask your voice to mine.
Match your voice.
Match your voice to mine. I like that a lot. One of the things that we did before we started this was to send you all of the answers that people gave to the what is the one thing that you would like to get out of this. So when we talk about confidence in children and then this idea of independence. So I'm a big proponent of let grow. which is the Lenore Skenazy we talked about. I think you guys even talked to her.
Mhm.
Lenore Skenazy is about giving them independence. She was voted the world's worst mom because she gave her kid $20 at 9 years old to ride the subway by himself. Oh my God, I can't believe that you let your kid do this. And so when I ask her, what are things that toddlers can do? Like you can't let them, cut up the Thanksgiving turkey. So what are some of the independent skills that
Mm.
will not make them feel defeated because they're not big enough, strong enough, don't have the manual dexterity? What are some of the independent skills like that you teach at Birdhouse that
Yep.
you let people do, let toddlers do to let toddlers do, period?
Yeah. Okay, big one, because you have some stairs. Let them climb the stairs. Let them go up and down the stairs, is one big one as I'm thinking about toddlers. They can also start scooping and serving themselves. Now, you're gonna have to teach them these things, and you'll be the safety net for them. But scooping is one, going up and down the stairs. Um, they can even help put things out like plates and help set the table. And the thing about toddlers and preschools, they love to help so much. They can wipe tables, they can water plants, if you get a little hand broom, they can start to sweep a little bit. Here's what I'll say, anything they're interested in doing that they watch you do, let them do and just be their safety net. Right. And
Um,
even if it's something that, yeah, I don't think they can probably do, like, let them try. Like, if I know there's a child that I have who can't really sweep up we have rice. I know he can't really sweep up all the rice off the floor and put it in there, but do I let him try? Yeah. And eventually it's going to just him even holding the broom is helping him with the skill on how to eventually sweep as he gets older and gets those dexterity skills.
uh, which brings me to a book that we had Micheline Duclef. I'm putting it in the chat. It's called Hunt, Gather, and Parent.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I think, and it says what ancient cultures can teach us about the lost art of raising happy, helpful little humans. And that is, you said, let them help with the dishes, let them help with the chores, let them match the socks, let them fold the shirt. There's a great video of how you can put together a thing and they can fold their own shirts. If I can teach my kids, which I didn't do, if I can tell you anything, have a kid learn how to take their shirt off the right way. So you don't have to undo it all the time. But these are things that we can tell our kids. And what Micheline talks about is kids want to have a sense of purpose in the family.
So true.
And so if
And
you,
we all want to have a sense of
no,
purpose and feel like we're,
absolutely, we all want to have a sense of purpose.
yeah.
And if you think about how we have these little strollers that they're up in a little seat and it's, we've kind of propped them up and it's like, how do you get them to say, a friend of mine said, this is me and this is the universe. And if people just understood that, we'd all get along better and I'd be happy. But we have to be careful. And there's another book called The Continuum Concept. Do not put your kid at the center of the universe. Let your kid fold into your world and the world around them. And so I think I would like to ask you how you do that at Birdhouse. Like, how do you not give everybody a trophy? I think some people came out of the trophy era. It's like we
Oh,
can't have anybody happy or unhappy.
yeah. Actually, it's really easy. Um, So actually, here's the hard part. I was gonna make kind of a joke about it and say it's really easy, you just don't do it. But there's actually a hard piece. There's a hard part to it. And this is the part of where this is kind of a part of empathy where we tend to, when children have a hard time, we have different ways that we sometimes try to empathize with children. Sometimes we dismiss what they're feeling and we're like, it's not a big deal. Like you lost, you're gonna have many losses, like no big deal, get over it, right? Not very helpful. And other ways we can punish them for their feelings and be like, why are you crying? And it's like, why are you crying? If you cry again, then I'll give you something to cry about, right? Or you're never gonna play soccer again if you're gonna cry about it. There's another thing we have in common to do. Now, something else that we have a tendency to do that's more of this generation because we're just focusing on what we don't want as opposed to figuring out what is needed and what we do want is sometimes we go to the other end of the spectrum and we try to save them from their emotions, right? They drop their ice cream and we're like, they drop their ice cream in the car and they're like, oh, honey, don't cry, don't cry. I'll drive right back and I'll get you more ice cream. You don't need to cry. Or we'll say this to girls, they're like, you're too pretty to cry, right? We try to save them from their emotions as opposed to accepting their emotions, accepting what they're feelings. And really, the simple answer, and I think again with all these answers, I go so much more in depth, but the simple answer for not giving the kids the trophies and the rewards and everything is to accept their feelings. And the hard part about that is that when, especially as a parent, when your child has big feelings, you feel that. And often we're trying to escape our own emotions because we never learn to sit in the discomfort of the uncomfortable emotions of disappointment. And so seeing that in your child or in a child brings up stuff for us. We're unable to regulate that for ourselves. So we try to save them and ourselves from that emotion. So the short answer is accept the emotions and allow them to be upset, disappointed, and just be there for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not our job to teach kids or to not my job. Oh, I want you to do this and I have another point.
Right. Finish your point and then I'll play this video.
It's not our job to make our kids happy. It's our job to teach them the skills to make themselves happy. So
Mhm.
going back and getting that ice cream gives them this little bit of like, oh, now I have my ice cream. I'm so happy that I have my ice cream. But getting through that disappointment of a job interview that didn't go well, didn't get asked to I mean, there's somebody right now who's written an anonymous post, their 15-year-old is self-harming. And it's like, how can you help them? And I've been through the teenage years. It's heartbreaking, just like it is for a toddler. But if we build from toddlerhood, this is how you deal with disappointment. They're going to be able to handle it better when they're a tween, a teen, and beyond. So
Yeah, and I wanted to share this video so you can kind of see what this kind of looks like a little in real life and kind of see a little bit of when you're starting to practice these skills, what it could look like. And I want to be clear with you, like the example that I'm going to show you right now, this is from my time in Compton, California, when I was working with a school with conscious discipline. I went there maybe 6 months before this. And then I came back for a visit and I was doing Zoom calls and teaching them the conscious discipline skills, going really deep. And this child right now, he's trying to write his name. Now, he's a 3-year-old in a 4-year-old classroom. Now, the reason he's a 3-year-old in a 4-year-old classroom is because he was unsuccessful in his 3-year-old classroom. And when things wouldn't go his way, he would use a lot of emotional and survival state behaviors that were really difficult to handle. He would kick, he would spit, he would run out the classroom, he would destroy the classroom. And this was really difficult, as you can imagine, for teachers and just people in general. So we started this conscious discipline stuff. Now I'm here encouraging the other children and like, oh, look, you're doing this, you're doing this. Now, what if you notice his body language, you'll start to see like they're all like practicing writing. Now he's struggling because he's not as skilled as his peers who are actually a year older than him. And you see some feelings of unworthiness start to come up for him, some feelings of like, I'm not good enough, maybe. And he actually does like put his pen down. Now in the past, he would have destroyed the classroom. Now in this moment, he does something different. And I'm not going to say what he does. I'm going to have you watch the video, but I will say is there's really 2 main reasons why he was able to do something different. One, we taught him the skills to do something different. We taught him. So even with the let them, even with the folding clothes, teach them how to fold clothes and then allow them to do it, right? And Even with the folded clothes, fold it in half like this. I do it, I let them see it, I do it slow, right? Like this. Key phrase. So you start with the verb, fold it in half like this. Like this is also really helpful phrase to use. Um, so one, he had the skills because we taught him the skills, and two, he could I think he could feel the connection there. So he was able to access a little bit of executive state that he has online. So I'm gonna play the video and then into there. Oh no, that's not. Oops, that didn't go my way. Could beat myself up and say, oh, I'm so bad at Google Slides and all that stuff, or I could just use the opportunity bump over.
Yeah,
Here we go.
I bet you did. Oh, look, and you wrote your name too. Now do it again right there.
I'm gonna do it.
And you wrote your name all the way down. Man, I see you. You did that. High five.
You can get off your chair.
Yeah.
You can
I'm
get
gonna
it.
do it.
You like to do it again.
Look, Enrique.
Oh, you took a deep breath in to help you.
Put it on there. Rub it. Rub it.
Yeah.
Rub it hard. Rub it. Harder. Harder. Good.
I give up. This is the toddler.
Wow. Now you need to get scissors and cut it out.
You kind of see in that last moment, usually it's all the
Yeah, I bet you did. Oh, look, and you wrote your
Now you need to get scissors and cut it out.
and you can even see in this moment how big connection is, right? And so, yeah, he was feeling probably some feelings of unworthiness. I'm not good enough. I honestly, in this video, didn't even know that he was feeling this way until he started to breathe. So he had the skills to overcome this hard, difficult thing because we taught him those skills. And my connection with him helped him even more kind of stay in his executive state as he was struggling, right? And so as they get older and older, they become, and you're using these skills, they become a safe place for themselves. They need less and less of us, and especially if they have felt that safety, that connection, that sense of belongingness, and that understanding in the past. So I just wanted to show you because it's helpful to have a visual of what this can look like, especially as you practice. Not going to look like this on day one. The breathing's not going to look like this with your 1 or your 2-year-old. But with practice, it grows. And this is just a 4-year-old. I could show you some amazing school age videos too, but maybe another day.
So we've got just a few more minutes, and I just want to encourage anyone, and we have another question we should answer.
Mhm.
How do you teach them to breathe like that when they're feeling overwhelmed?
So the first thing is you breathe. So you don't teach. Oh, that's actually such a helpful question. Thank you. You asked a question so that we could all learn. That was helpful. Um, so you don't teach this. So when they're in an emotional state or a survival state, they're not, their brain's not really open to learning new information. We taught the breathing when the child was in an executive state. We responded ourselves with breathing, maybe when we're in an emotional state or survival state. And so we modeled this. We model this when they're upset. And we teach it to them when they're not upset. And there's
Okay.
lots of different ways that we teach it. Like, especially for young children, we have different like visual breathings. We have like the pretzel breathing, which you kind of cross your arms and like, if you know anything about like, you cross the midline, which helps integrate both sides of the brain. There's the drain, there's balloon breathing, there's like little fun breathing that you can do with young children. But the big thing is modeling it. And at Birdhouse specifically, we do one of the big ways that the children have learned breathing is that during our baby doll circle time, we breathe every morning and they all practice because it's in play. And I definitely see children when they're frustrated and things don't go their way, they go and maybe make a different choice or something like that. So, big answer, teach them in their executive state and model it. Not necessarily in a big way of just like, oh, they're upset. Gonna go like you know, like you don't have to overdo it. Just breathe yourself when you're just practice it yourself. They're going to notice that you're doing it. They're going to catch on to it, especially if you're doing it all the time. You get triggered a lot in the day. I'm telling you, I know as a parent there are things that don't go your way a lot. Recognize it, breathe, model it, teach it to them, teach it and play, and they will learn as they grow.
So we started this with the tightrope walker, and we just had a question come in that says, my toddler, when he's shy, clings very strongly to me. How can I encourage him to let go and do the scary thing?
Yeah. So it's also important to know that some children are going to very naturally, just with their temperament, are slower to warm. And some children are just very naturally will talk to any stranger on the street and be like, hey, my name is James Markup Jr. What's your name? Right. And you're like, ooh, you could use a little bit of stranger danger. Some caution probably would be helpful. And there's some kids who are slower to warm. And it's like, ooh, okay, I'm in a new spot. Like I have to scan the area and really feel comfortable before I'm ready to play. I'm going to share kind of something that we've been doing at Birdhouse a little bit, especially like in the beginning as children were starting. That's been very helpful, especially for our slow to warm children. And this will kind of answer your question, hopefully. One, accept that your child's not going to necessarily feel comfortable in the time that we hope that they'll feel comfortable and just go out and be outgoing and all that stuff. That's one piece. And that acceptance piece is important for us to be regulated and help for them to feel safe enough to actually go out and do the thing. Two, um, uh, 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 as new children have been coming in when they first come into Birdhouse, especially the children who are slow to warm, they come in and they're a little like, oh, like I'm not really sure, and I don't bombard them with, oh, hey, like come in, because they don't really know me, and they're like, oh, I don't feel safe enough I don't know you, I don't know the space, like I don't feel safe enough. They will come and walk in the door, kind of survival state, maybe emotional state. They're not doing a lot of talking. Not all kids, but some of the slow to warm kids, right? And what I do is I focus more time on connecting with the parent and helping the child see that that the person that they feel safe with, feel safe with this, feel safe with me, right? So, and what will happen is they'll kind of look up, and they'll kind of check, and we're talking, and then what happens? We're safe. They'll start to go off and play, right? And now they're playing. They're there in the executive state. Their parents sending signals of safety, not just saying, hey, he's safe, he's nice. That never works, but just signals of safety about just interacting. And then that's when they tend to be more open to then kind of connect and play with me. And that connection, and because they're already up here and they're connected and we're playing and I can kind of get to know them, and they can kind of logically think, oh, this is a safe person. He's fun. He's noticing me. This is fine. That helps them then when they come in and next time they're like, oh, I feel safe. And so I say all that to say, the adult also has to send signals of safety to whatever that is in the environment. And so I would recommend you going into that. Yeah, they cling to you, interact in the environment. Don't focus too much on like, oh, you're being so shy. Like, just go out and play. Don't push them so much, because what you resist persist. What you can accept can rest, right? So if you push against like scared, you're like, don't be scared, they're going to be more scared, right? But if you just accept they're scared, their scared will evaporate, and you feel safe and you're in the space and you're playing and you're interacting and you're having fun, they will get more and more comfortable. Now, I can't tell you the exact timeline on when your child's going to feel comfortable in whatever space you're in with the exact circumstances, but I will tell you that you sending signals of safety to the environment and the people or whoever you want them to be comfortable with will be big. And I would avoid pushing it until they start to seem, I would avoid pushing it and allow them to start look at their body language to see where they start to feel comfortable and slowly move into that thing.
So I'm going to interject here. My younger daughter was in a twos program, and the head teacher, who was your typical give me a hug kind of head teacher, left. She got pregnant, and the secondary teacher was had to step up. She was a great second teacher, but she was not like your warm and fuzzy teacher. But she said something that was really important that I think goes along with this. You know, we're sitting there at a parent teacher conference, which are like the kids too. But she said something so insightful that I just want to share it because, you know, at the time, my daughter she'd sit in the circle and she would sit and she would follow rules, but she wasn't a lift up your hand and answer the question. And the secondary teacher, who was much more like my daughter, she said, you know what? I was like that. I was still having fun, even though I wasn't raising my hand and interacting. And it dawned on me like a bullet. I was trying to make my daughter be like me because that's the way to be happy. So when you look at something like shyness or apprehension or reticence, then if you look at it through your lens that that's something that you need to change, then you can end up stunting who they are. There's a great book called Quiet about introverts. So if you have a child that ends up, and there's a great TED talk about it, but this idea that you don't have to be talking to everybody, you don't have to be doing those things. So I just wanted to bring that up because I know I learn from me what not to do. But that was something was like she wasn't interacting as much as I think she should, or and I had to have this secondary teacher go, she's still having fun. She may not be, you know, screaming and hooplaying, but she's still having fun. She's still enjoying herself, even though and she didn't say she's not who you want her to be, but letting our kids grow into who they are, not who we want them to be. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense. I'm going to double down on that because we do, as a society, tend to value more extrovert characteristics than introvert, but they're both, neither of them are bad or good. They're just both different, and they come with different challenges and different challenges and also different things that are helpful for introverts. I know that I'm more, like if you're an extrovert and you're talking more, you're going to be doing less listening, right? And you might be less likely to observe things or notice things. And maybe you jump into things without like really taking account. And not, again, that's not good or bad, but there's going to be pros and cons with that too. And the introverts, yeah, maybe they are slower to, build new relationships, but they're also maybe listening more and to the relationships that they are having, and they're really noticing certain things, or really maybe able to be more empathic because they're spending time reflecting, and so I think that is and I'm so thankful that you brought that piece up because that's such an important part of this conversation that of you've kind of heard me say it a couple times of of acceptance, right? Accept the child, accept the moment as it is, accept your child as they are. They may not be ready yet, and that's okay. Um, you just be that safety net for them, allow them to flourish, and just keep on doing what you can to learn a little bit and improve a little bit every day.
Be not a perfectionist, an improvinist.
Yes. And I actually made that word up because this concept is so important to me. I'm like, we need a word
Yes,
to
we do.
counter perfectionist.
Yes. So it's not about being perfect, it's about improving and learning.
Yes.
And some of the things that I've just heard you say, I would love everybody to take just 1 minute and put what you're taking away from this experience tonight. What's the one thing you're taking away from this?
Ooh, in the chat, please.
In the chat, it will go to all of us, but we'll read it. Oh, and I put this book. Have you read The Gift of Fear, Chazz?
I haven't.
It's a great book. It's an adult book, but it really talks about trusting yourself. And I think that ends up being something that we've lost because we're so busy going, it's going to be unsafe. I can't let my kid do that. And we could talk all night, as you know, because we did that on our first call. But we could talk all night about, well, I don't want to let my kid do something because I'm afraid that other parents are going to think I'm a bad parent. Well, just get over that. Get over that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my state dictate. I want one more question, but
Go ahead.
today my toddler didn't get what he wanted and very calmly expressed his disappointment and anger with words. But afterwards he said, if I didn't give it to him, he doesn't love me anymore. He didn't scream this. This also happened when I was driving, so it was hard to fully engage with him. I stayed calm, and we talked a bit about emotions. By the time he got home, he likely forgot that. I didn't take it personally, but I'm not sure how much attention to give it.
So yes, Q-tip. I'm glad you said you didn't take it personally.
Yes.
Q-tip is something that would an acronym that we have in conscious discipline, quit taking it personally. It's just see it as something in the world didn't go his way. So there's kind of verbal aggression came out, which is normal. We do the same thing on the road when someone cuts us off. And sometimes we don't say it out loud, and sometimes we say it in our head. But just see it as he was really asking for understanding, connection, and or a sense of belongingness, right? So I wouldn't like it's something he said really translated as like, oh, he's really asking for connection. He's really wanting to be understood in this moment. He feels misunderstood. And that's what he's really trying to say to me. And that is really what you want to do is you want to respond to the emotional message underneath what's happening. He said, I don't love you anymore. And that's on the surface. It's kind of like the behavior iceberg. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that, but on the top, it's the I don't love you. Below was what was he wanting? What was in the question? What was he wanting?
He was just something. If I
Okay.
didn't give it to him, he doesn't love me anymore.
Yeah. He was wanting that bottle or that toy or that, whatever, that song on the radio. And that's really what he's really trying to communicate and respond to that. And you can even respond like, oh, you really wanted the toy or you really wanted such and such. It would even just, and as they get older, too, this is also kind of a little bit of lesson for like the cussing, like respond to the emotional message because it's going to be a little harder because right now, I don't love you. When they're teenagers, it might be F you, right? And that might be harder to Q-tip, right? Know that even the teenager is asking for, is really saying, I'm feeling misunderstood here. I feel disconnected. I feel like I don't belong here. I'm feeling like not maybe ostracized from the family because you're always taking little sister side and I feel like you're never understanding my side, right? So just remember that the emotional message underneath.
Yeah. And I've read some of Dan Siegel's stuff and he uses this idea, if I remember right, of closing off the ability to have the emotional state and now you're back in the survival state. And some of the things that you say to some of the things that we say to our kids in frustration just closes it down. So I kind of like that idea of like, okay, now I'm back in survival state. Now I'm back in emotional state. Only when we're in executive state can we be open to learning. Can we be open to advancing from it instead of just closing ourselves off because we're in a state. I posted up here this Randy Kaplan is a kids musician. He used to live in the area and he sang a version of You Can't Always Get What You Want. It's amazing. I'll try to look it up and see if it's around, just like the Rolling Stones song. If you, this is what they all took away. If you could give us one thing that you want all of these parents of toddlers to take away from this, what would it be?
Give yourself grace. That mistakes are an essential part of the learning process. You're learning along with your child. Those triggers that are all coming up and the buttons that they're pushing, it can be a beautiful gift of learning of helping yourself grow. And there's been generations and generations and generations of operating through fear and control. And what I'm offering is something different of helping your child learn through connection and collaboration, which is a complete transformational shift. And understanding that it is just you coming to this webinar, just you taking on being an improvementist and trying to improve and learn different skills and trying to understand your child so you can respond in a healthy and effective way is huge. And I say you just pat yourself on the back. And I didn't try not to be too long-winded, but this is the last thing I'm gonna share with you guys. The iPhone, this last little metaphor. Think about this kind of conscious discipline as the first iPhone, right? And think of yourself as like the first iPhone, right? The fact that you're taking this on, you're trying this is huge innovation. We've learned so much about the brain in the past few decades that we've been able to come with these strategies that really fit to our bodies and brains. And this is huge innovation. It's like the first iPhone and something to celebrate. The fact that you're here and you're listening to this, you're at the end of this, celebrate that. Pat yourself on the back, hug yourself, kiss your brain, all that stuff. Okay. And know that the journey's not over yet, that you will constantly be doing software updates, right? You get I get software updates on my phone every couple of weeks. And when I do the software update, it's like I look back at my phone, I'm like, it doesn't seem like anything's changed. This seems like this phone seems the same. Like, what did you even update? It doesn't feel like anything has really changed, right? But over the course of 50 updates, then your phone is practically unrecognizable, right? There's so many things that have changed. And the growth doesn't, as much as we want it to be, want growth to be like this, growth is actually looks more like the stock market. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And if you keep on taking the improvementist mindset, overall, you do get farther, you do grow, you do get there. But those declines can sometimes be hard, but know that they're part of the process. And those software updates, what happens is that you're not necessarily updating your hardware, but you know what happens? The second generation of iPhones come. And they learn from all the software updates that you've been doing, all the steps that you've been taking on your path, now becomes where that second iPhone starts. Where you're on in the marathon, your finish line then becomes their starting line. And they're able to build off of all the lessons, all the hard work that you put in to parenting and learning and growing. And the next generation build off of that, and so on 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 until we have Apple Vision or Google, whatever the next innovation is, Ray-Bans. I don't know what they're doing now, but that's how it happens. So give yourself grace, know that this is a journey, and to just keep on taking those little improvements. You got this. Give yourself grace. The fact that you're even here learning is something to celebrate. So go you.
Go you. And we should have more. Children's Screens has a lot to say about, you picked up the phone, and I was like, one of the big things in feeling connection with your child is to not be on your phone. And if you're trying to talk to your kid who's upset and you're on the phone, that's not going to make him feel connected or her feel connected. So Children's Screens calls it technoference. that is impacting our ability to connect with our kids in so many levels. And if you do have to be on the phone, tell them what you're doing. Mommy's looking up her shopping list. Mommy's looking up the Google Maps to figure out where we're going. So it's not, this ends up becoming much more interesting than anything your kid is doing. So I speak from experience. Mr. Chazz, we went way over time, but I have to say there are still 95% of the people on here. We could talk all night. And yes, that applies to any relationship, phubbing, phone snubbing. And I want to do it again. We can just keep talking about this. Are there any books that you would recommend for, he's getting his book. If anybody else took really good notes and wants to shoot those to me, I have mine all over the place. Okay, this is conscious discipline.
So this one, this book it's geared towards the classroom, but it has so much really great information that parents, it'd be really helpful for parents. I say this is like the teaching Bible or the parenting Bible, has everything in here that will help you work through 99% of the things that you'll encounter with your children, and it will also help in your relationships. This book is just about, it's called Managing Emotional Mayhem, the 5 Steps of Self-Regulation. This book is about how to kind of move yourself from the survival state to the executive state, and how to teach your child to do it too. So this one is called Managing Emotional Mayhem, the 5 Steps of Self-Regulation. It goes way deeper than what I went. The first one I showed was Conscious Discipline, Building Resilient Classrooms. If you want a potty book that is not with like bribes and rewards or punishments and fear, that focuses on the internal motivation of children, this book called Potty Mastery, A Child-Centered Approach to Toileting by Joan Morgenstern is really good too. And all of these books you can get on the Conscious Discipline website, and you can get free shipping using my code Chazz2025. Now, the last one I'm going to show you is this book called I Love You Rituals. It has a lot of songs and games in here that focus on connection. Those 4 components of connection: eye contact, touch, a playful situation, and presence. If you go and search I Love You Rituals on YouTube or something, you'll see a lot of examples. But it has all those 4 components of connection so that you can connect a lot in a short amount of time, because parents, we know that you're really busy. So the time where you are connecting and not phubbing, you want to be really valuable so that your child can be filled up with connection. So those are the 4 books. And there's one last book I don't have with me. It's called Easy to Love, Difficult to Discipline. And that is the Conscious Discipline parent-focused book that is also on the website.
Easy to love, hard to discipline.
Easy to love, difficult to discipline.
Difficult to discipline. I'm writing these in the chat, and I'll try to put them all together in one. Thank you. I adore you. I think you've got, the best intentions. You were talking about, many of us were raised with fear and control and shame. If we weren't good enough, if we weren't doing it right, then we were controlled by this fear, and we have to move beyond that so that we can understand that our child is not pushing our buttons. Our child is not trying to make us angry. So we could have one of these weekly and still not run out of things to say. So thank you everyone for coming. We will post the video, and if there's any last things you want to put in the chat, just like saying how great Mr. Chazz is, who doesn't love to hear that?
I just want to do one last plug. I'm in New York. I'm here, and I want to connect with the community and parents. And I've done an event or two, and I'm looking to maybe do an in-person event where we can actually do this in a more interactive way. If you're interested in any of that, you can reach out to Birdhouse or message me on Instagram or something like that. But know that I want to connect with you, especially as I'm here and I want to build community with you and I want to help. I want to spread consciousness when I want to help. I want to help. I want to help. And I'm willing to do it for free, where typically I'm getting paid thousands of dollars to do these kind of talks, but I want to give it to y'all for free. So
We
last thing
should
I want to plug.
we should talk about whether or not we could get all the PTA groups together and do this. I've got some more ideas for you. Somebody did ask earlier, are you planning to open any other locations in Brooklyn? We are focused on our Brooklyn, or excuse me, our Williamsburg location for now, and they have a couple of spots left for the 25-26 new year. But the idea is to grow these small places so that you get specialized attention, and also do some community events, which you'll be hearing from me about that. So if obviously if this is the type of environment that you'd like for your child, check out Birdhouse, and you'd take 2 to 5 year olds, correct?
Yes. Yep. 2 to 5.
2 to 5, and it's a mixed age classroom, correct?
Correct.
Love that. Love that. Going to get you together with Lenore Skenazy, talk about more things independence, have them build their independence, let them do chores. I'm going to stop talking because it's 9:39. And I appreciate you, Mr. Chazz. I appreciate everybody who's still here. And I'm going to stop the recording now.